you are going to have dramatically different org charts and P&L statements. What I hope it looks like and what I think it can look like is humans being unlocked to do their most creative work. As it turns out, there is a win-win play.
Welcome to the Enterprise Thought Leadership Podcast, where we explore the latest in enterprise trends, tech, and strategy with the top leaders shaping the future.
Welcome to Enterprise Unlocked. I'm your host, Radhika Mukherjee, Editor-in-Chief of Enterprise Talk. Our guest today is Lexi Reese. Lexi is the co-founder and CEO of Lanai, an enterprise AI governance platform. She's a former United States Senate candidate. She served as COO of Gusto, as well as the Global Vice President of Programmatic Advertising at Google. Lexi, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks. I'm so excited to be here.
Very, very much. Absolutely. So AI is extensively being used in enterprises. But do enterprises know what value they are deriving and the exact ROI from their AI investments? We are here to discuss how enterprises can ensure that AI delivers value and perhaps even supercharge the workforce. Lexi, let's start with setting the stage. What are the major stages of an enterprise's AI journey? And does it differ by company size at all?
I'd say this has all moved so fast. So in 2023, when ChatGPT reached 100 million users, that's when AI became a board level conversation. And people's first move was to block it. Their second move was to form a committee and a charter and tell people what they couldn't do with AI. And then last year, they delegated budget to each function to experiment with AI. And I'd say that brings us today, where most enterprise leaders will say, I let 1,000 flowers bloom, and I think there's good stuff happening, but I have no idea what it is. All I see is the expense, increasingly from different AI tools, especially tokens from Claude Code and the other major coding applications, but I have no idea what the return on investment is. And that's where Lanai helps, but that's where I think we are and where most people are.
Okay. And how do they then climb up the ladder?
Yeah, so I think, we just talked to 200 of our enterprise executives and kind of interviewed them about why is this so difficult and what can we do to help. So 92% of executives say they track AI's financial impact. Okay, 92%. But only 2% can actually record a measurable business outcome. So that means they track the expense of AI, but they don't see where it's returning in terms of revenue per employee or any other kind of major business performance indicator that they normally track. So the first thing that I'll say to businesses is, do you know what AI work is being done in your organization? So step one is make sure you use a platform, Lanai or another, to see all AI mediated work. And can you actually quantify the impact of the work? So what we do is we'll tell you how many hours AI is working for you, because we'll translate the work that we see AI doing. And we see all AI work, whether it's through a co-pilot, whether it's a assistant that was quietly added to an existing software tool, whether you built the AI, whether you bought the AI, we see all of the traffic. Just like Waze sees driver traffic, we see the traffic, we don't see the drivers. But we can then show you the patterns of what work is being done by team and by department. How many hours is that contributing to your workforce? And is there any risk being introduced? Is sensitive data leaving to an unsanctioned app? And you can start to, by workflow and by team, say, yes, that's something I want to scale. No, that's something I want to stop. And just like Workday gave you performance levers to help manage your human workforce, Lanai gives you all the levers you need to manage your AI workforce. So suddenly you're not just spraying and praying and saying, okay, well, I hope one day some of these flowers turn into bearing fruit. Instead, you're actually watering and putting fertilizer on the flowers that actually are going to grow the farthest and the tallest.
Right. So what's the ideal state? Like if you look at the stages, let's say, you have some amount of confusion, then you look at, okay, we're getting organized, but what's the ideal we have to kind of reach for?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the ideal is that you are managing this workforce as well as you manage your human workforce, and potentially that this makes you better at managing both. Because if you think about it, Radhika, every business since the Industrial Revolution, let's just say, has had a mission. They've had a vision of the world that they believe should exist. Their company has a mission for how they're going to participate in that future of the world. And then there's pretty standard things that any business has to go through to bring that mission to life. They have to make a product, they have to get that product to market, and they have to service their customers and their partners that help them or use their product. Like, it's really those two things: build, sell, service. And so those things are still true. And always, even when I was managing Gusto, which is a payroll and benefit service for hundreds of thousands of small and medium businesses, it was quiet infrastructure that changed how businesses accounted for, paid, and gave health insurance to their employees. I love this quiet infrastructure place, but I love quiet infrastructure that makes life easier. And right now, it was difficult before AI to say, if I'm growing Gusto, which, it was 100 people when I started, it was about 3,000 people when I left. We grew very quickly, servicing more and more companies across more and more products. And you would always, at the beginning of the every year, say, okay, given what we think growth is going to look like, what should our product do? What should technology that we buy do? And what should our people do? And therefore, how many people do we need based on what we think the work is going to entail? And that was a complicated question before. And now, just think of it as you have 3 levels of the AI workers now to choose from. And those levels are: level 1, it's an assistant to your existing employee. So it gives you, Radhika, personal leverage. The second is you give the agent assistant. Like, the agent is working and you're either managing or working alongside it. And the third is a fully autonomous agent that takes on an entire workflow. So what I think the end state is, this goes from people feeling like, oh, this is so foreign and I don't know how to manage this, to people feeling like, oh, actually, I do know how to manage this. I have a workforce plan that corresponds to what the needs of my business are, but now I have more choices of how I distribute and delegate labor, and people will start to feel like they're more in control of that choice. With systems like Lanai, if there's no system of record for one of the biggest investments you're making, then you're probably not going to be on track to actually win in the AI age.
Right, absolutely. And to get to this ideal state, what are the characteristics of sensible as well as profitable AI deployments right from the get-go?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, sensible AI investments from the get-go, to me, it has to start with values and motivation of the leadership team. There's two obstacles for people becoming an AI fluent organization. And when I say AI fluent, I mean someone whose EBITDA, real earnings, change as a result of AI in a positive direction. And that could be because operating expenses come down or revenue goes up, but ideally it's both. What stands in the way of businesses who transform their earnings positively and people who stall or reduce their earnings is, one, the values and motivation of leadership, which really is a funny place to start, and most people would not start there. But I start there because I think businesses that treat AI as labor arbitrage, which is what a lot of people are running to, is like, oh, well, I'm going to fire my call center in the Philippines or in India, where I had already done a lot of offshore work, because I'm just going to put an agent where the human was. Which, by the way, is happening. We know that's happening, but we're not recording that in the United States as part of our labor report. So a lot of labor reporting is underestimating how many jobs have already been impacted by AI because it's happening outside the United States. But when people leap to say an agent can do this and I'm going to cut human beings and give the agent all that work before they really understand the implications of that decision, meaning what's the long-term implication on customer churn or customer satisfaction. Because as it turns out, humans do way more than an agent can be programmed to do because they're answering questions in an empathetic and compound way. That's just one example. So when I say that if your value and motivation is how quickly can I get to cheap labor, I think any one of those businesses will be out of business in the next 3 to 5 years. If your value and motivation as a leadership team is, I think AI is the greatest revolution to better serve customers, and if their motivation is to better serve customers by giving AI the right work and then redesigning the work of humans in their workforce, because as it turns out, there is a win-win play where you actually delegate work to AI that humans never really wanted to do. You know, CX teams, customer experience teams, don't want to reset passwords all day. Like, that's not that fun. And an agent can do that work very quickly. But what they do like to do is solve problems and really solve complex problems. So if you redesign work, as one example, to fit the skills and motivation of the worker, both the AI worker, which I told you is 3 levels, and the human worker, then you're on track to better deliver to customers a service that no one else can rival. And so it stands to reason that if your values and motivation is, I'm going to solve this complex Rubik's Cube of how to use this new labor force in the highest purpose way while also making my employees' jobs better and serving our customers better, like, then the financials will come.
So it's actually very values driven. It's the most human thing of all.
Which, as it turns out, I know that our society likes to paint black and white pictures of people who create businesses, or especially if they're successful, or sort of evil people only caring about money. And maybe that's in some cases true. But I find if you choose to lead a business, you generally like people. You like customers and you like your employees. And you're, again, in general, you're not trying to screw over your employees in order to make more money, generally speaking, for yourself. But what is true is your incentive, if you are a public company, is quarter to quarter to increase earnings and to show an increase over time. So until and unless executives are given technology to help them make a better choice about when to deploy AI and how to delegate that in a more nuanced way, they will be pressured. And in fact, they will have a fiduciary responsibility to give as much labor to a cheaper labor provider, which on paper AI looks like, again, if it's a $6,000 subscription versus a $60,000 worker, it looks cheaper. So in the blindfold of just math, if it seems like I could give that to an AI worker, and if it seems like all my competitors are doing that, and I haven't been given the system of record to make a better choice, then we're going to have this strange negative cycle. So we feel so motivated, and I love the customers we work with because they're motivated too. They know the smarter choice is redesigning work and redesigning workflows by team and by function, and even taking experiments of like, does the functional org chart make sense? Should the customer experience worker who's been on the phone with customers for the last 2 years, knows everything about how the product works and how it doesn't, should that person be only relegated to be on the ladder of a CX person, or might that person be a great product marketer or a great product specialist? So you start to be able to think generatively and creatively about the people that have the contextual and organizational memory of your entire business. Like, they can do incredible things, but you need to be thoughtful. And having been an operator for so long, I know that this is not easy work to plan for a new workforce where pathways are different and where job designs are different.
Right, absolutely. So in order to be thoughtful, to achieve this win-win that we were speaking about, is there a framework that organizations can use to figure out what can and should be done by humans and what can and should be done by AI?
Yeah, I mean, I think one, just know that you have ROI hiding in plain sight at this point. So the quest is, first of all, don't feel bad if you can't find it, because you're not alone. Like, again, I think that we have, in the span of 3 years, gone from people not being able to spell AI to everybody talking about AI every day. There literally are less than 10% of people getting any real change to their P&L as a result of AI. So most people are still piloting, most people are still experimenting. And so I think number one is you've got to set your vision. You have to set a vision that is inspirational. And so one is human agent teams are our operating model, and that operating model will deliver 15% more capacity to deliver higher value for customers. Like, you have to name a really big vision and just be honest with your employees. Human agent teams are our operating model, and they're our operating model because we think we'll have capacity in our most important work if we better leverage AI. So I encourage people to set a goal around capacity, 15% improvement in cycle time and throughput and revenue per employee. But don't just set that goal, because when employees hear that goal, they're not dumb. They think, well, that just means that's a path for me losing my job. And whether that's real or perceived, that's what the majority of employees feel. So I encourage people to make sure they say, I'm making a deal with you guys. We want that capacity, but only if it improves our customer experience, it improves your work life. And what's non-negotiable is we're not going to scale any AI work that makes our numbers look better, but makes your job worse or hurts customers. Now, you cannot say that if that is not true. If you are using AI as labor arbitrage to get rid of a bunch of jobs, then you have to modify what that vision is. But the purpose of the step one, to answer your question, is you should say out loud your vision for what AI means to your workforce, and make sure you don't just put the financial goal, but put the customer experience goal, put the employee work-life goal, and say what's non-negotiable and how you're going to use as a guide your decision on what humans are going to do and what AI is going to do. And then you invite people to what their role is in it. So if you're using a system like Lanai, you can honestly tell your employees, try any AI that makes your job better. Tell us what works. Help us figure out what parts use human judgment, because step 2 is really making sure everybody's roles are clear. And the people doing the work are the makers. In a great AI organization, everybody becomes part of the studio, like a creative arts studio. The people who are doing the work on the front lines, levels 1 and level 2, you want to say, try new AI. Find out what real tasks this helps you with. Tell us what helps and what breaks. Then you have managers or specialists who sit with the makers, and their job is to turn those experiments into real workflows. And guides are the senior leaders who set the goal and remove blockers and hold the organization to the promise that they're not going to scale AI if it hurts customers or makes work worse. And so you have to keep competing, you have to keep repeating the contract. Guys, we're doing this to make our service and product better for customers. Our product and service is going to be better for customers if we make smarter decisions about what you do and what AI does. You're all part of that. And then you can honestly, in 6 to 9 months, again, if you're using a structural visibility tool that helps show how these workflows are now generating real business impact, then you can share back, hey guys, here's what all these experiments did. Here's our plan. We see very clearly, for example, in sales, our SDR team, which is our lead generation team, we don't need our very smart SDR team to be doing rote lead generation. This is true in Lanai and with one of our customers. We've helped our customers create an agent that does a lot of lead generation that humans used to do. Looking on LinkedIn, who should I call? What should I do? An agent serves up, here are all the leads every morning in the SDR humans Slack channel. And then what the SDR can do is customize outreach to customers, get on the phone with customers, be way more personal because they have way more personal information. That is what I call a win-win, because the rote work that no one liked to do is now done by an agent at a low cost. The work that matters for the employee and the customer, because when was the last time, Radhika, you loved getting a canned spam outreach? Like, hey, I've listened to your podcast and I think you should use this tool. And it's like, how many people did you send that to? As opposed to me saying, Radhika, I've listened to the last 3 episodes. You're amazing when you ask the following questions. I would love to support you on X. You know, my name's Lexi. Could we have a conversation? It's so much more human. And that's what I think is the possibility of like, again, why do we care? Because it helps us deliver better products and services to human beings by making humans connect more authentically with other humans.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. So in this new world we're going towards, how can AI be used for maximum impact, and also which functions should be automated and which absolutely should not?
So I think the other interesting thing about this, Radhika, is it's not a steady state answer. So I'm going to give you the 2026 answer, and then I'm going to give you 5 predictions of how things will organize over the next 3 years. Does that sound okay?
Wonderful. Please go ahead.
Okay. So right now, AI is best at the roles or I shouldn't say the roles. AI is not good for any one role or any one function, because every role and every function has workflows within it that are time intensive but easy to do and can be written out in a playbook. Like if I can write down step 1, step 2, step 3 of this particular workflow and pass it to someone else to do, that is the hallmark sign that is a great workflow to be either given to a agent that gets managed by a human or given to an autonomous agent entirely. And by the way, like it's kind of a myth today that there's any real autonomous agents, because in our survey of 200 executives across enterprises ranging from 1,000 to 10,000 employees, there's no such thing as truly autonomous agent, because you have humans doing quality assurance on the agent's work. So I think that will change, but today I think it's important to say the level of delegation that you give to AI is most dictated by if it's a very repeatable task that has a playbook. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So password resets, it's a great thing. Certain sales workflows, great thing. Like every function across every industry has workflows that are ripe for AI agents to take over the playbook, and then to have AI supporting a worker to get more leverage in their day. So for a business that works with Lanai, they are now getting 2 times as much leverage of their engineers, and they're able to see that because they can see what AI is doing for those engineers. So their engineers are no longer having to do some production code, but they all check the code of the AI that has actually been produced. So that's today. Where do I think this is going? I think AI is about to stop being this story of dramatic innovation and start being a real finance and operations story. Why? Because the questions are changing. It's not, are you using AI, but it is, what did you get for it? It's not how many seats, but what work actually changed. So I think that the org chart and the P&L were both built for human workers, and agents are breaking that. So HR and finance teams are going to have to reconcile with the fact that AI is operating labor in a software costume. So an agent that can handle 10,000 support tickets appears on the P&L statement as a software expense. But if a human did that work, it was labor. And the substitution doesn't right now register in accounting statements. But the important part is that it is a new way of transacting labor, and it has to be recorded somewhere. So if I were to actually say the first level of work is that it's only done by a human, and what should a human do and always do? Anything that is heavily trust impacting, that requires judgment, where there is so much riding on it that it could break the company. That is work only a human should own. But I think that what the mix of the work going forward that I told you about, of where a human's doing the work and the AI assists them, right now I think we're seeing the majority of AI work look like that. And I think that will flip. It will flip over the next 3 years to be the agent is executing and the human is reviewing the output, more than the human is doing the work and the AI just assisting them. And then if we were to say how many sort of quote unquote autonomous agents are there in the workforce today, it's probably about 5% today, and I bet in 3 years that's 15% of work done by agents. And the reason that I say that is that if 20% in 2028, if humans only is about 20% of the work, unassisted by AI, and 80% is assisted by AI at the 3 levels that I mentioned, you're going to have dramatically different org charts and P&L statements. And so we have to reconcile how to see that work and how to account for that work. And that's, again, obviously what Lanai spends a lot of time on.
Yeah. You know, what occurred to me was that I'd love to know what the human role looks like now in this world. Like, leave aside AI, of course, human working with AI, but what does it look like in general?
So what I hope it looks like and what I think it can look like is humans being unlocked to do their most creative work, more judgment, less retrieval, more relationship, less formatting, more accountability, less execution, and accountability to big outcomes. I'll give you an example of a biotech firm that we work with that was really forward on letting their employees use AI. And I don't know if it was a level 4, like a lower level junior analyst came up with a gene sequence for a rare disease that had impacted her family, and she felt a lot of passion for. Obviously a bright young woman who had not been working for that long, but she used AI to code a genetic sequence that ended up having real merits. And the reason that the leadership team was able to see that is because in that case they were using ChatGPT as kind of their LLM of choice in the organization. And when people had done work that they thought was repeatable and scalable, they logged it as a GPT into their company store, if you will. They called it something else, but it was effectively like we have an app store. They had a GPT store where leadership could see the work of everyone who was working on different projects. And they saw that, which was much easier to see that like this work had been logged in, and they were reviewing the application and they said, wow, this really has merits, and now it's graduated to get more senior level attention and funding. And in the past, if we weren't in an AI world, that visibility to the leadership would have not come maybe at all, because it had to go through human review and human review and human review. And we are bandwidth constrained in terms of how quickly we can review. So when I say the org chart really needs to change and what will a human role look like, what I hope it looks like is potentially we free ourselves from a hierarchy that has been around since the industrial age, and we encourage people to solve problems, and we name what problems we're trying to solve, and then we allow people to have at it, with, yes, judgment, guidance, supervision, coaching, but not as much dictated by, well, you're only a level 4, so you couldn't possibly have developed a genetic sequence, because you only do that when you're a level 8. And I think, Radhika, we've always known, I've for sure known for a long time, that my org chart does not correspond to the quality of the ideas that are coming through the organization. And in fact, some of the best ideas are coming from the people on the front lines talking to and servicing prospects and customers every day, or engineers coding every day. And some of that quality degrades as it moves through the org chart. So I do think that one of the problems, though, with that is you're going to have a lot more execution. You'll have a lot more creation of ideas, and you still need some human judgment. So the fact that, for example, my engineers can code faster, and in every organization we work with, their engineers are coding faster. There is a curation of the code that isn't just about the quality of the code and making sure it's not hacked. It's about the product leadership and product management, whose job it is to make sure we don't just ship code, but we ship solutions to our customers. And we haven't expanded the number of product managers that we have. So we have a different bottleneck. In the past, it was, hey, I have this idea and I'm waiting for the solution. Now we have people solving a lot very quickly, but you still need a little bit of judgment before it ever gets in the hands of a customer or it ever sees the light of day with a partner. And that, I think, is going to interestingly change. Like, how do we solve that? I'm not quite sure how we solve that.
Yeah. So if you had to sketch it out for a CXO, what would this AI first planning process look like? Maybe just 3 steps.
Step 1, see it. Have a software solution that helps you to be able to answer the following questions. What AI is working in my business? how much, how frequently, and why. So if you can't answer those questions, which by the way, Q2 is ending in June. In July, whether you're a private company or public company, you're going to have a board meeting, and they will ask what AI is working in our organization, what's it doing, how frequently, and why, and what are we getting from it. So 1, find the answers to your current state. Number 2 is begin the conversation. If this is our current state, what is the art of the possible? What do we think should happen to this picture going forward? So that's the existing state is just the traffic patterns. How do people use AI today? What is it doing in your business? Where is it doing in the business? With that picture, you're going to start to see patterns, number 2, of what you want to stop, start, continue. And step 3 is then you actually execute the plan. You stop duplicative work that's being transacted across 3 tools. You don't need 3 note-taking tools that are summarizing notes across the business. You need 1. You don't need to use, potentially 3 AI tools in sales. You may need only 1. Until you see what's actually working in your business, you won't be able to make smart procurement decisions. But the bigger workforce decision is, what do you want to agentify? What workflows do you think are repetitive and you want to build as agents? And what workflows do you want to templatize? Meaning, how do you want people to be assisted by their AI colleagues? And again, with a system like Lanai, that is exactly what we're there for, is see all the AI work, steer the investments, and scale the right workflows with the right worker in the right way.
Great. Thank you so much, Lexi. Thank you for appearing on Enterprise Unlocked.
Thank you, Radhika. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And to our audience, thank you for tuning in. Keep listening to Enterprise Unlocked. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Enterprise Thought Leadership Podcast. Please do follow us on social media and subscribe for more ideas and insights. Until next time.